Welcome to Modern Mindset, the show that picks the brains of the world's leading minds to help you unlock yours. Decoding the beliefs and strategies of global experts to give you an updated mindset to make the most of modern life. Hosted by the UK's most in-demand and highest-paid hypnotherapist, Adam Cox.
This is Modern Mindset, the show that picks the brains of the world's leading minds to help you unlock yours. I'm your host, Adam Cox, and joining me today we have Sohail Khan, who is the joint venture expert. Sohail, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the show. Now, we've been connected online for a while, and I don't think I've seen someone as obsessively focused on one niche as you. Like, there is one word, or two words, I guess, that you absolutely dominate, you're obsessed with, hugely consistent, because some people jump and kind of flitter around kind of different niches, is this area of joint ventures. But how did that come about? Why is this such an important area for you?
I'll tell you where it all started from. I met a guy called Tony Robbins about 15 years ago, and I sat down with him at an event he was hosting over in Florida, and I said to him, Tony, I've got all these ideas for these different businesses that I want to pursue. And one thing that he said to me stayed with me for the rest of my life. He said to me, what you want to do, he goes, you want to focus on one thing and become the best in the world at that one thing. So he goes, before moving on to this, focus on that one thing, become the best in the world at that one thing. And when you become the best in the world at that one thing, then you'll be free to do other things. So that's where it all initially started for me, to really focus on this one thing called joint ventures and joint venture partnerships. And also to thank my mentor, Jay Abraham. It was actually his book called Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got that actually inspired me to get started down the road doing joint ventures. And here I am today. And you're totally correct. This is the only thing I live and breathe. You won't see me talking about any other subject or any other topic. And this has basically allowed me to become the #1 joint venture expert in the world.
And that book, by the way, I mean, it's quite hard to find. I had to buy like a used copy of Jay Abraham's book, because he doesn't have a lot of kind of books on Amazon, but you've got to kind of find it. But that is a great book. And with Jay, he is like yourself, very kind of enthusiastic, very knowledgeable, but he has an obsession with strategy. And, I remember hearing a thing where he talked about this toll booth kind of mentality. Yes. You want to build the toll booth, and then once you've built that, you're going to get paid for it again and again and again. And that metaphor, me being a hypnotist, really stuck with me, because it's kind of like, that's like a money-making machine. When you actually build these things, they pay you again and again and again. For the layman, if someone's listening to this and they're like, well, I want to find out about this joint venture expert, but what is a joint venture? Real layman's terms, what is it?
Great question. So basically, people always ask me this. So a joint venture is basically just a collaboration between two or more entities, with entities that have a mutual understanding or a mutual connection. So I'll give you an example. The classic example I give is, let's say you have a luxury bathroom tile manufacturer and a luxury bath manufacturer. Both of those companies, now they see each other as competitors, but what is they share the same customer base. They have people in their audience that buy both products. So these two companies can form a relationship combined and basically promote to each other's audiences doing a joint venture. The only issue is with joint ventures is most companies see other companies as competitors. That's where people like myself, who I'm also a joint venture broker, come into the middle of the equation, which you call the toll booth, and basically put these two entities together, and whatever sales are generated from this joint venture deal or this joint venture that's been put together, I take a cut of that deal, hence the toll booth. So every time a transaction goes through between both parties, I'm in the middle of that transaction as the toll booth, and that transaction also goes through me, and I pick up my commission. So that's basically how a joint venture works.
And it's the kind of thing that, people make billions from. So I think it was George Lucas that cleverly negotiated the rights to Star Wars to get the merchandising rights, when that was a time that movies didn't turn into toys that people bought. They turned into toys that came free with burger meals and things like that. And he made more money on the merchandising because he had those rights. So in a way, he became a joint venture with himself, to then license that intellectual property. So he was getting the royalties rather than having to kind of make the toys himself. You know, he was kind of linking up his intellectual property with someone that could leverage that. And I'm assuming that it could be done in the other way as well, where you just kind of sell the entire rights. So you're not the toll booth, but you broker the deal. There's some kind of finder's fee, or you're squarely in the middle and you get this kind of royalty or residual income flowing from that. Is there a preference from your perspective? If you were doing a deal yourself or recommending other people to do it, is it better to have that big payday, or is it better to kind of have that drip, residual revenue coming in?
Good question. You always need to have what I call your bread and butter business, right? Which is basically the drip coming in. Residual joint ventures are good, but then there's also an opportunity to make millions doing the larger deals. And like I said, I've done a couple of those larger deals. They are like unicorns. Sometimes they come and go. They're not always easy to find. So for example, I did a deal many years ago. Actually, this is the deal that put me on the map. My background was in e-learning, computer training software. I was basically reading a Sunday newspaper one day, and I saw in the back page of the Sunday newspaper there was an ad for a book. And the book was How to Use Your PC in 2 Hours. It was for the baby boomer silver surfer market. And what was interesting in the book was at the bottom of the book, it said they had sold 400,000 copies of this book. So as you know, my background was in e-learning software training courses, and I saw an opportunity here. I saw an opportunity to pitch basically a JV to this company. So I gave the company a call and I said, hey, I've seen this book that you do. You sold 400,000 copies. Do you have a video version of the book? They said no. I said, well, look, I have a video version of this book. Would you be interested in doing a deal where you could upsell that to your existing customers? And they said, yes, they were interested. So I went to go and see this company. Remember, I didn't have the product. I just pitched the idea. They thought I had the product. So I went to go and see them. And basically struck a deal. They were interested. I didn't have the actual product at that time. And they told me to go away and produce the product or send them the product within the next couple of days. So this is one of the amazing things about JVs is basically, I always say the money's in the distribution. If you find someone that has massive distribution, the money is in the list, right? Or the money is in the distribution. So a lot of people, when they think about JVs, they think, I've got a product. Then now basically I need to promote that product. You know, I need to go out and promote this product. It's really the other way around. You need to find someone that has the distribution channel, and then you can introduce as many products as you want. So that's where the bigger JVs happen. So with this particular deal, I went out and I went online and I created a DVD course based on the book. I basically repurposed the book into a video course, and then I licensed the video course back to the company. And we did just over 201,000 copies of the DVD. My cut from that was £5 from each of my royalty deal. The licensing deal was £5 from each one they sold. They sold it roughly for about £15. They took £10. I took £5. And after selling 201,000 units, and my cut of that was £5, I made just over £1 million, which is over $1.5 million with that one deal. So that was that one big deal that really put me on the map as the joint venture expert, which is a combination of joint venture with a licensing deal, where I just licensed back actually pretty much their own content back to the organization, and they went out and they upsold it to their existing list. So opportunities are there to do the big JVs and the big deals. And a lot of my students, I train and certify joint venture brokers around the world. They do big deals, you know, 1.2, 1.4, $3 million deals. And they are possible to do, you know, depending on how you approach it.
And that's the key thing that I see with a lot of very financially successful people. They've got the ability to distort time in the sense that you were using language of, I've already created past tense this product, this video version of your book, you know, and this could be really appealing to your pre-existing client base that have only seen the paper version.
Correct.
Would be interested in doing a deal. And if you'd have said it in the normal way that people talk, which is, I feel like I could create this product based around your content, power dynamics shift immediately and you become less desirable. You know, it's an interesting thing. So you made this kind of big deal, you know, worth more than $1 million. And was it all plain sailing after that point? You thought, I've found a winning formula here. I'm just going to go out and just make an absolute fortune.
Now, what happened after that was interesting because people always ask me this question, as in, how come you couldn't find similar deals like that afterwards? This was a catalog-based company, and then the dynamics changed after that. When the internet came around, most of the catalog companies died. So, back in those days, we were doing a lot of JVs with direct mail companies, for example, and catalog-based companies, and those were easy JVs to do because they had the distribution, they had basically their customer database wasn't just prospects, it was buyers. So whatever we would plug into that, we were guaranteed to make money. So, that was one of the main pivotal deals that I did. I think the second biggest deal I did after that was when I grew my consulting practice. So I did a lot of strategic partnering consulting, basically in the States, in America. And I'll tell you an interesting story. I was approached on LinkedIn many, many years ago, and I had a message in my inbox from an insurance company based in New York, and it was the CEO of the company. He said to me, "Sohail, I've been watching your videos on YouTube, where most people find me. Joint ventures. Is this something that will work for our organization?" And I said, "Okay." I messaged back, said, "Tell me a bit more about what you're doing." He said, we generate leads every month. We're spending six figures in the insurance market. What we're finding the difficulty is it's getting very competitive. It's getting very expensive. Is there a way for us to generate leads by doing JVs? I said, of course there is. I said, if I can show you a way to decrease your marketing spend down to zero and rely more on joint ventures, would you be interested? And again, they said yes. So he then asked me, okay, what have you got? We are basically very, very busy. Do you have any trainings that we can access? I said, look, the only training I have is I do a 15K boot camp in Las Vegas. It's 3 days. I go through everything over the 3 days. You get certified at the end, and then there's 12 months of mentoring. So he said, look, I got 3 of my team. I want to send them, what price could you give us for 3 of my sales guys to come over to your bootcamp? So I said, look, I can do a deal for you. I can do 25K, okay, for 3 of them. They come to my bootcamp. And then he asked me the question, what if you came to us in New York and spent the day with us? Could you do the same training in a day for my sales team? I said, yeah, sure I can. So he said to me, okay, great. 25K, right? So this was the first time that I've ever done a consulting in a day, and that day charge was 25K. So I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. If I can get paid 25K to do 1 day's consulting, that'd be pretty cool. The only other thing was it was basically coming up to April. So remember, I was doing all the conversation via message on LinkedIn. I thought to myself, this has got to be no. First of all, what he said to me was that sounds great. Send me your bank details, and I'll get my someone in our finance office to wire the funds to you. When you get the funds, let us know, and then we'll set up a date and a time, and we'll basically we pay for everything. We'll fly you to New York. We normally put up our clients in the Mandarin Oriental overlooking Central Park. Is that okay? And I was like, yeah, of course it's okay. And then the conversation ends, and he goes, look out for the wire transfer. So it's coming up to April, right? And I'm thinking, this has got to be an April Fool's joke. Who does a deal? And this was many years ago. Who does a deal over Messenger, right? Over chat in LinkedIn for 25K? But mind you, nowadays, today, we're all closing deals over Messenger chat, right? It's just normal now.
Yeah.
But back then, it was like, I've never done a transaction just via a chat message. It goes through a process. It goes through validation, and when you're dealing with large corporate companies, it's a different ball game. So there I am every day checking my bank account, thinking, seriously, this has got to be a joke. And then end of the week, the 25K hits my account, and then we get on a call, and he says, "Okay, brilliant, that's all done. Let's fly you out to New York. Everything's set." And I ended up spending 3 days in the Mandarin Oriental. We had an orientation. I did a day's training. Then I spent a day with the CEO, and it was amazing. After that, that was my benchmark. Whenever someone wanted me to come out and do consulting, it was 25K for the day, or it was 50K for 2 days. And that was what I started doing with big corporations in America. Fortune 100, 500 companies. I was basically the joint venture expert, going in doing strategic partnering consulting. And it was amazing. They flew me everywhere around the world. I went into organizations, and they brought me in not once or twice, but 3 times to do the same, to deliver, because I was the only person in the world at that time doing that kind of training, doing that kind of consulting. Nobody else could really compete with me, because I created that market, put it that way. I was dominating that market. So I was approached then by a company in North America, and they said, we're seeing your stuff. Can we license your training for our sales team? Okay. And I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. So again, flew over to North America, biggest sales training company in the US. We ended up doing a deal. I did a train the trainer series. I gave them a licensing deal, and they started training all their salespeople through strategic partnerships. And then a couple of years later, they got back to me and said, look, this deal is going really, really well. We had a 50-50 split, basically. And they said, we're now interested in owning 100% of that license. We basically want to bring that in-house, and we want to own it. And basically, this was my IP right at the time. So I was licensing it to them. And they put a deal on paper. And I said, put another zero at the end of that and I'll consider it. And then 3 years later, in 2017, they came back to me and they put another zero at the end. Now, at that time, I had 2 kids. I've got 2 very young kids. And I was a workaholic before then. I was flying all around the world, and I missed my kids growing up. So the timing for me was right. And I thought, you know what, this is it. I'm going to cash out here because I want to spend more time with my kids and watch them grow. So 2017, I basically, I sold that business by an acquisition partnership for 8 figures. And that was basically, I sold it to my JV partner. And I've done that 3 times now. I've gone into a deal where I've done a JV with an organization, a 50-50. And we've excelled so good at that JV in the relationship that now they want a 100% piece of the pie. So I always try and do a venture by an acquisition partnership with the outset of that partner buying me out, right? So I've done that 3 times now, and it seems to be a formula that works really, really well. 8 figures, 9 figures works really well. And that was it. 2017, I retired. I spent more time with my kids, but then I got bored. Came back out of retirement in 2019, like you do, and I carried on doing my boot camps. And then, obviously we had COVID, had to pivot, started doing online coaching to free my time because I get bored very, very easily. And then Clubhouse came, and I was like, to be honest with you, before Clubhouse, I was ready to just basically just retire for good because I thought, you know what, I need to spend this money because I love business. I get really excited about new business ventures. I get approached for partnerships all the time. But for me, I think I've pretty much done a lot in my life. I've lived in mansions, right? I've had Ferraris, Porsches, and Lamborghinis. I've done all that. We even had a private jet. So I've done all that stuff. So it's like when I look at everyone on Instagram and on Facebook with their Lamborghinis, I was like, I'm really glad I did that at such a young age. And as you know, I lost everything in 2008 during the last recession. And you can see the pictures on the internet of I had a 15-bedroom mansion. I had all my Ferraris, and I lost everything. I got wiped out in 2008, totally wiped out. And then also, obviously, I set myself a challenge in 2009 to make $1 million. And that's when I did that $1.5 million deal, came back on my feet very, very quickly. And I'm glad it happened to me at such a young age, because now I don't think about those things about acquiring material possessions, right? I am basically an acquirer. Basically, I say to people, don't spend your time acquiring material possessions. Spend your time acquiring experiences, right? Because that's what you can talk about to your kids, your grandkids. You can the more experiences you have. So you should be a collector of experiences, not a collector of material possessions. So that's been my journey. And then Clubhouse came, and before Clubhouse, to be honest with you, I was going to come totally off social media. I was like, I'm done. I don't need to do this anymore. But then Clubhouse came, and then there was the FOMO element of Clubhouse. I think when we all came onto Clubhouse back in, I think, December, we were all on it 24 hours a day, trying to figure out, okay, what is this Clubhouse thing all about? Now, you talk about strategy. This is what I'm a big strategist, okay? And everything I do is always based, everything in my life and online and on social media is all based on strategy. It has to be, because then you get lost. You have no roadmap. You don't know where you're going, and you can get lost down the rabbit hole. A lot of people have got lost down the rabbit hole, right? Because now you can see on Clubhouses, when we first came on Clubhouse, everyone was doing these rooms on millionaires, right? Become a millionaire, but it's all the old BS internet marketing stuff. That's what it was, right? And then the marketers came on Clubhouse, and people continued doing that. But the thing is, they were spending so much time on Clubhouse, but not making any money, right? And, we all run businesses. So, if you're sitting on Clubhouse 24/7, what are you doing? You're either monetizing it or you're not. Fine. You can say to people, I'm giving back, but 24 hours a day, you have a family, you have a business. Come on, try and get the balance, or try and understand. And I say to people on Clubhouse, if you're on Clubhouse and you're spending that many hours, have a clear, concise strategy. What are you doing on Clubhouse, and why are you doing it, and what are you getting back in return? So for me, earlier on, I was very fortunate to figure out a formula on Clubhouse that allowed me to get between 50 and 100 leads a day, basically off Clubhouse. So this is what I found about Clubhouse, right? Which was really interesting. We were spending a lot of money on Facebook ads to grow my joint venture group. Okay. The problem I had with that was it was wastage, because you're just throwing money, and Facebook just goes out there, and Facebook thinks they know who your target market is, because you go by their audience algorithms, but there's a lot of wastage. So people would come onto Facebook, onto my group. We had 3 questions. They wouldn't fill in all the questions. They wouldn't give us their email addresses, right? And there's a lot of wastage. Clubhouse, the difference I found with Clubhouse is the quality of people on Clubhouse is phenomenal. Every single person that comes off Clubhouse into my Facebook group fills in all 3 questions and also gives us their email address. So not only have we built a large new database based on Clubhouse, my group on Facebook has doubled in size in a short space of time, and the quality is pretty phenomenal. We're doing 6 figures a month just from the Facebook group, and there's like 4,000 people in the group, right? So we don't sell on Clubhouse. Don't sell. Clubhouse is not there to sell, because people don't like that. But what you do is you use another platform as your sales mechanism. Clubhouse is really what I call your traffic mechanism. So, we stopped doing Facebook ads. We didn't need to do it anymore. And Clubhouse is now the new, the traffic channel. And then what also happened, it morphed into something bigger than that. I was approached by a couple of investors. They said, hey, we looked at some of your stuff. We like what you're doing. We're trying to bring a couple of people together and basically form a group on Clubhouse of just basically investors. So I said, okay, look, let me figure out what I can do. I'm a connector. I bring people together. And that's when I created the Pitch Club. So I created the Pitch Club. The Pitch Club basically was a place for startups to come and pitch to investors. Now, the investors we have on stage, this is what I love about this community. It's no BS. It's very transparent. These guys are super ethical. Look, if you ever look on the stage, at my Clubhouse stage, and you look at the bios, on that stage is probably more than $2 billion worth of net worth, right, on that stage. And it is absolutely, it blows my mind every time, the amount of deals that these VCs and angel investors have done. And what I love about them is that they're no BS. They will not be on the stage and bullshit what they have done, or what they think they've done, or what they're making. They don't do that stuff. They're just like, hey, okay, we've got a 500 billion fund, or we got a 1.2 billion fund, or we got a 250 million fund, and we're looking for more ventures and more projects. It's really simple. So that's one of the things what I love about Clubhouse. And I think, you're right, man. You just got to be strategic, And I'm a person who, you talked about leverage. That's all I do. I leverage everything that I can leverage. Every point, every asset, every resource, I can see where I can leverage that. So I'm spending less time, but getting more back. And I think Clubhouse, if you're good at putting people together, you can create some really cool partnerships based on that platform. So yeah, I'm really happy that it came about at the right time for everyone. So yeah.
And I can see why you couldn't retire. I mean, you've got so much enthusiasm and kind of energy for
it's
it.
crazy,
You'd be like a tiger in a cage if you retired too early. So going back to mindset, because it sounds like 2008, the whole credit crunch, everything kind of changes. Having had so much, and I'm sure at that age, there was a lot of your identity linked to your success, your financial success. If you've got a 15-bedroom house, you've got, supercars outside, your status, your sense of, particularly for men, a lot of their sense of self-esteem and confidence comes from accomplishments. What did it do to you when you lost that? And how did you get back from that?
I love that. So see, when I was a lot younger, all I wanted to be was rich, right? I was a very egotistic, right? I wanted to have the big house, all the cars, the blah, blah, blah. When I was a lot younger, that's how I used to think. I just want to be rich, right? But what I didn't realize was there's a big difference between being rich and being wealthy, right? Which is, with wealth, you can create bigger things and you can create more impact for other people, not just yourself. So when it happened to me, it hit me like a freight train. For me, it was like it happened so quickly. And it was a difficult time, because when you're used to living the multimillionaire lifestyle, and then your income and everything gets taken away from your feet, you're falling. You're basically falling into a hole, because you're in survival mode. So for me, what happened was I ended up moving back home to my mum's house, and I really had to think about my life. I had thoughts as in, what do I do now? Should I just go and claim bankruptcy? what do I need to do? Or shall I just forget about being an entrepreneur? Should I just go out and do something else? Let's go and do some volunteering in the world or whatever. So one of the things I think that really saved me was my belief system. Okay. And one of the things I think, like for me, I'll give you an example. My belief system is always this, right? And it's based on my religion. It's based on my belief system, which is this world is temporary, right? So whatever happens to you in this world, whether you succeed or fail, it doesn't matter. What happens is what happens is the impact that you make in this world and what you leave behind. That is the biggest barometer of success, right? In terms of when you leave this world, what have you left behind? What kind of impact have you left behind, right? And which is, a lot of people don't think about that. They don't think about what can I do today to make an impact in other people's lives. And obviously,
it's that ripple effect, isn't it? It's the ripple effect, the legacy, effectively.
Exactly. And when you get older, you realize all this. You say, oh damn, my dad, my old man, he was telling the truth when he used to tell us these stories. So that's the biggest thing for me. That was like, first of all, okay, look, succeeding or failing in this world, it doesn't matter, right? Don't beat yourself up about it. Don't look at the next person and think, oh my God, he was in my class or whatever, or he's got this and I don't have that. My life is rubbish, okay? Because he's got this and I've got, no, it doesn't work like that. Every person is an individual, and I think you've got to really figure out what impact you're going to make in this world, right? Because you don't need all this fancy stuff to make a real impact in this world. Second of all, I ended up, it was very difficult. When I was at home, when I would go outside from my mum's house, all my old friends from college and what have you, all were in their corporate jobs and had their houses, their mortgages and their kids and their cars. And they were, the only thing that I never had one positive thing from a friend. They would say to me, well, you should have stayed in your corporate job. You had a great job. You had a job as a management consultant. You left that to start to become an entrepreneur. If you would have stayed in your job, you wouldn't be where you are today. And I was like, wow, not one friend would say, I'm really sorry about what happened to you. I'm sure things you'll turn the corner. I'm sure things will be okay. No, they were like, well, you know what? You should have stayed in that. You had a great job as a management consultant. You should have stayed in that job. So for me, that was like, wow, mind blowing. So I thought I have to disappear from here. So I ended up in a monastery, right? I went to a monastery. I thought I want to go somewhere where it's silent. No one talks to me. I want to just sit there and I want to just think about what am I going to do next. The monastery blew my mind. Number one, they had this fantastic library. Every single theology, religion, they had books on everything. I was shocked, and and that's the thing, is ignorance, right? People look at other people's religions and their theologies, and they make it an assumption, but they don't realize some of these people are more more on the ball than we are, right, when it comes to things like that. So I spent time in the library. I read books on different religions, on theology, ideas. One of the things that I was taught in that monastery, which I still use today, was the ability to control my thoughts, right? Because what I was taught was your thoughts control things, and it's phenomenal. And it's going to sound really weird, but I have the ability to be able to live in the confine of my mind, right? So right now, if the whole world around me was blowing up or exploding, I could literally live in the confines of my mind. I could be, how should I put it? I could be really peaceful, right? At peace, just in my mind. I can do it in short, not short bursts, but short wavelengths. I can't do it over a long period of time, which I was able to do back then. I could do it over a long period of time and just block out. Seriously, it's just amazing. You block out everything, and what happens is everything around you just disappears. It just like falls down, and then you're in your mind, and then you're at peace. You don't feel your body, and it was pretty phenomenal. So I took that, I used that, I came back, and then I said to my mum, look, you know what? Right now I'm at the bottom of the floor. I can't go any lower. There's only one place I can go, that is up. So I said, I'm going to get back on my feet. I've got an idea how I can do that. And obviously, joint ventures is something that I did before from scratch. I built millions. And I thought, you know what, this is the only thing I know that works. It's the only thing I know I'm good at. And that's when I set myself a challenge in 2009. I said, you know what, I'm going to do a couple of joint ventures. I'm going to make $1 million. And then, I'm going to get back on my feet. But I was very fortunate enough that, opportunity came. I took that opportunity, and in the short space of 30 days, I generated that joint venture deal, which made me just over $1.5 million. But yeah, the mindset thing is amazing, man. I think more people need to really dig deep into themselves and try and figure out what it is that they're really trying to do in this world, you know. But the belief system, whether it's religious or whether it's spiritual, everyone needs to have a belief system, man, because when everything around you crumbles, you have to have something to hold on to, you know. And if you can have that, then I think you'll be okay, you know. So but yeah, it's been a phenomenal experience and a phenomenal journey. So
and it's interesting how the belief system shaped your reaction to it, because I think I mean, you mentioned, you know, an early mentor of yours, Tony Robbins, and one of his key things is that it's not what happens to you, it's the meaning that you give to what happens to you.
Yes,
you know, and you get to determine that. So for you perceived it very much as temporary setback. You know, you still had all the knowledge, all the skills that you had before, but there was a temporary setback in terms of your financial net worth and your immediate environmental circumstances. And you see this in people in adversity. A lot of people allow the adversity to shape their emotional state, which creates a self-fulfilling prophecy where, because they're feeling so bad, they'll turn to drink and drugs, and then kind of goes down a thing. But I think it was in Man's Search for Meaning, and he talks about, you know, this guy in a concentration camp, and he was able to say, look, I can't control all the variables outside, but I can control the thoughts in my head. It seems like you kind of arrived at a similar conclusion, that you're in control of your thoughts.
Yeah, and I say that to people, that look, with me, if something is not in my control, I walk away. You have to walk away. You can't sit there and try and figure out this puzzle when you know for a fact that you will never be able to open that puzzle because it's not in your control. And that's what a lot of people try and do. A lot of people try and they waste so much time. It's like, look, this is not in your control, this situation, I'm telling you now, it's not in your control. Walk away. And that's what I do. If I can't, I'm not saying I need to control the situation. If there's a situation that I know I cannot control the outcome of that situation directly, I will walk away from that situation. And I think it's very important. And I think, you know, one of the people that really comes to mind is Spock. Spock, he thinks with logic, right? So Spock he's always calm, this guy. When you see him in Star Trek, Spock is the only calmest guy in the whole of the ship. Everyone's freaking out. We're going to die. The ship's there. And he's just sitting there thinking, okay, you know, he's got his one finger like this, and he's logic, you know, right? So he tries to calculate and think, okay, let's think about this logically, right? So I think sometimes you have to do that, and I think the you know, the mind and, you know, controlling that mind, it's an amazing thing, and yeah, I do that a lot. So, you know, I think this is what allows me to do some really, really crazy things, because I have that ability to think like that. And one of my thoughts always been is what would I do if I knew I could never fail? You know, obviously that's how I think now. I think, you know, I'm not really failing. I'm basically, you know, I'm like I always say, losses equal lessons, right? So these losses, they're not really losses, they're lessons. Right?
It's win or learn, isn't it? That's the equation. When you really, you know, because I was 23 years old when I set up my first business, and a lot of people were telling me similar things to you, which is, why would you leave a safe, secure job to kind of venture out on your own? And for me, I thought, well, when you're young, that's the best time to do it. Because
that's right.
I kind of came to the conclusion that I'd saved up about, I think 25 grand worth of savings at that point. And that was my seed capital in my own business. And I thought, well, if my business is successful, then I'm going to do really well. And if it isn't, I'm going to learn more in that experience than I would do doing an MBA, which would cost the same kind of amount. So, you know, it's kind of like heads I win, tails you lose. Whatever happens, so long as I learn from the experience, I'm better off than when I started. And if you learn that when you're 23, 24 years old, that gives you a massive competitive advantage against those people. And for me, I think real courage is people that can leave a corporate job at 40 or 50 and be an entrepreneur at that point, because you've got dependents, you've got habits and things like that. In your 20s,
takes a lot.
You know, worst that can happen is that you just go cap in hand back to a different career. Better off in terms of learning than you left. You can't really lose. I also like what you're saying about belief systems. For me, belief systems are the floodgates to resources. So your belief system enabled you to be highly resilient and highly optimistic at a time when most people without that belief system would be, you know, self-critical, they'd probably, deem themselves and label themselves a failure and not even try.
I'll tell you, after that, after when I did that deal, I got invited to speak around the world in big stages. I mean, 5,000, 10,000 people. And so many people used to come up to me when I used to get off the stage and say, look, how did you do it? Because, we've lost X. I lost 8 figures. They've lost more than that. And they'll say, we just never recovered. We're now in these in these events to learn how to get it back, or learn how to become successful again, and reprogram ourselves. And it was just one of those things. It was like, wow, so many people have gone has lost more than me, but they just never found their way back. And it's like, just really, unfortunate. So.
Yeah, it is. But again, it's that element of permanence. And I think, when you have that acceptance that, we're all just renting space here, no one's immortal, we're all, just visitors in this game. So what can you do, I think is an important thing. And for me, I agree with you. Experiences, but following experiences, assets, they're the things you want to collect. Collect experiences, collect assets. Because if you're borrowing money to have things that just make you look good on Instagram, you're playing the game entirely the wrong way.
It's crazy. It catches up to you at the end of the day. And also, one of the things that I learned a lot as well is, and it's probably because of my experience, is not having attachment to things. Back then when I was a lot younger, I had attachment to so many things, man. I mean, I used to live in this big 15-bedroom mansion, I had all these cars. I just had too many attachments, and it was very difficult. And that's, most of it brought me down, to be honest with you. So nowadays I try and live my life to not have too many attachments, not be attached to too many things. And I think that's really, really, really shaped me and really helped me. But look, at the end of the day, I wouldn't have had that if I didn't go through that experience. Who knows? That experience basically changed me in a different way for the better. So, every person is unique. Every person goes through their own journey. But for me, it's just a lot of what I went through at that time. And it's where I am today. But I'm grateful. I can't complain. Who knows what that person would be like today if I was still, living that lifestyle, which is a crazy lifestyle.
Nobody knows, do they? And that's the thing. There's a crystal ball of all these infinite possibilities of what life could be like, with the ifs and coulds and shoulds. Not every day I have a joint venture expert on the show. So, as a hypnotist, I've entertained the idea of joint ventures, and I thought, right, there's mattress companies that have got a big list of all these people that have bought a product to sleep. And I can create a hypnosis session to help them sleep better on the very mattresses. Or Aura Ring, for example, they've got all this data on this kind of stuff, and I could create something for them. How would someone like me that has very little experience, I've got a bit of experience in joint ventures, but not a huge amount, start thinking, right, I'd like to have a conversation with these kind of companies so that my skill set and their database, their distribution channel, can become a win-win outcome?
So it's always got to be about them first, because you've got to think about what is their bottom line, right? So when you approach them with their proposition, the proposition has to be what's in it for them. So you've got to really do your research. So when you're approaching companies like that, organizations, do some research, find out, what are they currently doing right now? What are they currently working on? Who are the main people who work for the organization? What are their backgrounds? Other stuff that they've done in the marketplace, other collaborations that they've done. So you need to collect that data, because when you do approach them and you have a conversation, instead of saying, hey, I've got this cool thing, I've got this great thing, I'm the best at this in the world at this, they're going to say, well, so what? I mean, that's you. What about us? Well, how do you see this benefiting us? How do you see this benefiting our customer audience or our customers? So you've got to always come with a value proposition, as in, what this will do for your customers right now. And then always, to get your foot in the door, you can always roll with a pilot program. Pilots always help, just to get it off the ground and see where you go from there. And then easily after that, it becomes much easier. But to be honest with you, I would say having conversations first of all with people in the industry would help first. So approach people who are experts in the industry, and have conversations with them first, because then when you have a conversation with this organization, you can say, well, I was speaking to Zach Henry, and as you know, Zach Henry is an expert on sleep disorders, or he's an expert at whatever it is your industry is, and we had this interesting conversation about what I'm planning on proposing, and actually he thought it was a great idea. So what are your thoughts on that? So I always use a third-party reference, because when you use a third-party reference, it's much stronger. Because when we come face to face with people and we try and negotiate, it's just us and them, right?
Looks
And in a
like it's
negotiation,
self-serving, doesn't it?
yeah, and
Mm.
not only that, in a negotiation like that, the other person always wants to win. So we don't want to have a negotiation. We want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
So I always use a third party reference. I'll bring someone else in that I've either spoken to or who knows me, and I will bring them into the conversation. So it won't just be me and the head of marketing or the CMO or whatever. It'll be me, the CMO, and this other person who isn't really in the conversation, but I'm referencing that person. Say, hey, George is here as well. Let's all talk together. I've had a conversation with George. This is what George thinks. So what do you think, Steve? Yeah. So that's what I try and do. I always read or the third party reference is one of the most powerful strategies you can use to take something from a negotiation to a conversation. So yeah.
And I imagine, like, once you've got your first one of these things in place, much easier to then get future ones because you use that one as a
So
template,
easy,
as a
yeah.
case
So
study.
easy. Said, yeah, exactly. Said we worked with these guys. It went really, really well. Now we're looking to roll out. So we just made a short list at the moment. So let's have a conversation, and we're really gonna work with 2 people in the next 6 months, or a handful of people in the next year, and we like one of those people to be you. So yeah.
Mm. And I would imagine, like, in this kind of industry, and obviously you're very well known in this industry, I would imagine normally when you've got 2 separate parties, there lends itself to the possibility of brokers that can negotiate these kind of things. So
Yes.
that, so let's say I'm a hypnotist but don't know a lot about joint ventures. They might think, okay, you could potentially do very well licensing this hypnosis or this program or this thing, that could increase revenue for this company here. And then if they make that happen, I'm guessing that's where the toll booth thing kind of happens.
Exactly. Yeah. You get a broker to come in the deal and say, look, this is what I'm looking to do. If you can connect me with those organizations, I'm looking to are willing to give you a percentage of the deal. Be honest with you, you've got a lot of collateral in the marketplace already. You do have a reputation in the marketplace as well. So that could really work for you as well if you wanted to go ahead and do it. But then again, if you're busy and if you want to just outsource it to a broker, then that's probably another way to do it. So yeah, there's several different ways. But I would first of all have conversations with people in the industry just to figure out if this is something that's definitely got legs, and if this is something that people would be interested in. And once you get that endorsement and that validation, then you basically use that in your conversation. So what happens is you're not becoming a salesperson. You're actually just saying, look, I've got a validation and endorsement already. I'm just looking to find and select the ideal joint venture partner to work with on this pilot program.
Very interesting. And you said, like, when you started, a lot of these catalog companies were ideal because they had huge lists. They already kind of knew how to kind of measure ROI and all this kind of stuff. And you just had a different product that they can leverage, they can measure and all that kind of stuff. And obviously it's a different environment now. What are the ideal sectors that joint ventures work really well in now?
Okay, that's a good question. At the moment, it's the software industry, right? Especially software as a service. The SaaS industry right now is ripe for joint ventures because, number one, you've got residual. And number two, all these organizations are looking for new clients, right? So if you can get a deal struck with a SaaS company where you can go out and find them joint venture partners to promote their SaaS product to their customers, it's a win-win deal. So I'm finding more and more clients that come to me are in the software space. Because it's guaranteed money and their contracts are high. They do a lot of things with corporations and it's residual as well. So in the software sector right now, I think there's loads of partnerships to be had.
Excellent. If someone's curious to learn more about you, obviously you've mentioned you're on Clubhouse. What's the best way that they can learn more about joint ventures or learn more about you or just kind of hear more about what you've got to say?
Sure, brilliant. If you go over to LinkedIn and just type in the Joint Venture Expert, or even go to Google, type in the Joint Venture Expert. You'll see all my sites there. You'll see all my videos. Google, the great thing with Google, it will display all the videos as well. So go and watch the videos first. They're on YouTube. You can type in the Joint Venture Expert into YouTube. That's a great place to start. And also for anyone who would like to take this further and learn more about how joint ventures or joint venture brokering works, just go to my site, freejointventurebook.com. That's freejointventurebook.com. And you can download my book and some JV training on that site also. That book is normally $30 on Amazon, but you can get it for free on that site. And I've also included some joint venture training on that site for anyone who's interested in learning more about joint ventures and joint venture brokering.
Fantastic. And whether you're listening on YouTube or the podcast, we'll make sure that link is in the show notes as well. So you can easily get access to Sohail's book absolutely free of charge there. Sohail, thank you so much. I know we've been connected for a while. This is the first time we've actually had a proper conversation.
I know, that's right. Yeah.
Really good to actually.
we normally exchange messages, but that's great. Yeah. And success, congratulations on your success as well. I've been keeping a a lot of eye on what you've been doing, not only in the gym, but also out of the gym as well. So congratulations.
No, appreciate that. And likewise, great to see, and huge numbers on Clubhouse. Sohail, thank you so much for joining me on the show, and to you at home, thanks for joining me on Modern Mindset. See you again soon for more.
Thank you for listening to Modern Mindset with Adam Cox. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review. Modern Mindset, picking the brains of the world's leading minds to help you unlock yours.